At 6:01 p.m., we have a quorum with Carlos Bustillos, Richard Cudier, Sotero Midas, Cruz Ochoa, Mike Rosales, and myself, Connie Woodruff. Catherine Lucetto is unable to attend. Trustee Rosales, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? Dr. Delatorre, do you have any reports this evening?
President Woodruff, members of the board, we've got 4 presentations this evening. The first presentation is from our Bond Oversight Committee. It's the Bond Oversight Committee report. With us is Mr. Frank Hernandez, and I believe I saw Mr. Patrick Brown with us as well. Anyone else here from the Bond Oversight Committee? There's 4. Are you all presenting? Moral support?
Moral support. Much needed moral support. Okay, do we have that slide up? Okay, we had a big presentation ready for you all, but there's not much information that was on these slides that you all haven't been exposed to, the pictures, the data, the contractors, the local, the architects, et cetera, the pictures of the completed project. So what we're going to do is kind of condense it. I'm going to use this slide mainly because this is what the bond oversight, the 4 pillars of what we are tasked with. So this is an important slide for us as a bond oversight. I want to start by saying good evening, President Woodruff, esteemed board, Dr. Delatorre, YISD, and VLK staff. I would like to start off by thanking you for having us here as members of the Bond Oversight Committee. In saying that, I would like to recognize those members that took the time out of their day to be out here to join us. If you would please stand. I know there's a few back here. Be recognized. Thank you all. I want to personally thank them for keeping me on track with their questions, input, and most importantly, their passion to make YISD the best at all levels. And thank you all for keeping me on track. Like I mentioned, it's important because there's so many things that are going on, just not in my daily life with other projects and other things, but this is important for me as well, and I appreciate you all being here. Year 3 of 2015 bond has truly been an exciting year for the YISD learning community. We have seen firsthand the fruits of our labor, visiting many of the project sites and the completed campuses. Truly an amazing accomplishment that we've been exposed to. We started back in about 3 years ago with $430.5 million, which total 19 bid projects. Out of those 19 bid projects, we're at 9 that have been completed, 7 that are under construction at this point, and 3 that are in the design phase. Total, a great accomplishment that we've come in such a short time. To date, 84% of that money has been, and I'm not going to use the right word, Lily, I'm sorry, spent, maybe. So we've got a little bit left, 16%, maybe about $60 million that are still left to be either allocated and or encumbered with the future projects, these 3 that are pending. We have had some budgets that have come under budget. So the amounts of several savings of millions and millions of dollars that has been a true testament as to how well this project and this bond has been managed. Such accolades are not easy with these types of monies and these types of premier type bond projects. Dr. Delatorre and all the staff, VLK, the project management teams, Mr. O'Neill, Abby, everybody should be commended for that effort. That is truly a great accomplishment. It means that we had a great plan in place, and again, accolades to the whole team. Very, very impressive. That being said, currently have a Ballard High School middle project that's on everyone's mind, with understanding that difficult decisions are not and should not be made easily. Let us learn from these weaknesses and these deficiencies at all levels so that we can move forward to another great year and this total completion of this project, overall project, that I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We are way ahead of this 5-year plan, 4-year plan that we're looking at, and there's many, many great things in the future for us. And I thank you all. We as a Bond Oversight Committee work really closely with all the staff, and we have seen such great, great accomplishments for this YISD learning community, and I want to thank you all. With that being said, I have one member, I think, that wants to speak. Manny?
Dr. LaTorre, Mr. O'Neill, like last year, I promised to be sincere, quick, and quiet. Okay. The first thing I want to do is give out a few thanks. I can't elaborate enough with what Frank said, but after all the visions, all the planning, all the designs, we finally got to see where the rubber meets the road. The new buildings, the renovation, the campuses, they're fantastic. I can't argue with that. Very impressive. Second is, thank you for all the jobs you've created. I'm sure there's a lot of thankful people this Christmas for all the jobs that were created because of this bond. Third is, I want to thank you for not being in the news. Nowadays, it seems like the only good news that is in the news is bad news, because that's the only one that makes money. So you're not in the news, it means you got good news, stay the course, okay? The other thing is, endeavors of this type don't come without setbacks and problems and issues. Frank talked a little bit about some of those, but I guess the only thing I can say is, in my long career in aerospace and defense, anytime I had problems and issues with my projects and stuff like that, 2 things I've learned: don't let them linger, and learn from them. So let's do that, and when the next bond comes around, we'll remember them. And the last thing is, I want to leave you with a true story. There's a neighbor of ours that has an autistic child that recently transferred from one of our schools in the area to Thomas Manor. He had learning issues, and he had learning issues and anxiety and other things, and the class size also. So recently, maybe about a month ago or so, he transferred from one of the schools to Thomas Manor. And somebody decided the first thing they're going to give this child is a tour of the buildings, the campus, and especially the library. And the turnaround on this child's demeanor was astonishing. Astonishing. Now, he's up every morning waiting for the bus. He's made some friends. He's learning. His whole thing has been a 180, okay? I want to thank everybody here for the impact you've had on one child. Thank you.
In closing, I would just like to say thank you all again. Wishing you all happy holidays and a Merry Christmas to you all and your families. Be safe.
Before you go,
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say thank you from the board, from the cabinet, from Dr. De La Torre. We just appreciate your role in keeping us going and doing what we're supposed to be doing. We just appreciate that you guys take your time and unpaid and volunteer and the whole thing, and we just appreciate your hard work. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. And again, we couldn't have done this without the YISD staff, the board members again as well, the committee members. I can't thank them enough for, again, keeping me on track and making sure that we're providing the best product overall.
And no good deed goes unpunished. Remember that.
You got it.
That's all I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
It's a teaser.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Also with us this evening is a firm we've worked with, I think for almost a year now, that I'd like to invite to come up. Townsquare Media presentation, JT Chapman, Jed Knapp, they're with us. Introduce yourselves and tell the board a little bit of what you've been doing, and you'll find them to be an inquisitive bunch.
Well, we welcome that. Thank you, everybody, for having us. Dr. De La Torre, board members, cabinet members. Cabinet members, it's good to see you again. Well, it's been a while since we presented, a couple months at least, and I'm excited to kind of show you some progress that we've made. But I also want this to be something kind of, since this is a room full of educators, hopefully I can educate you all, and kind of this can be conversational and more of like a, if you have questions at any point, please feel free to interrupt me. I often use acronyms in my business because it's like my own language. So if ever I use one and it slips, I'll try not to. Please pause me and say, what does that stand for? And I'll make sure that you guys are kind of aware of what we're doing. So one of the things when you're doing any type of advertising is, I'm sorry, before I jump the gun, my name's Jed Knapp and JT Chapman. We work for Townsquare Media. We are a fully serviced digital advertising firm, as well as one of the third largest owner of radio stations in the country. We are one of the largest media aggregates in the country right now, and I'll kind of get into some of that. But I want to show you, kind of talk to you about when putting together any type of advertising, especially for the district, and you guys are all in a unique situation here in El Paso. We have open districts. So as parents have the choice of where their children can go to school, kids have that choice as well. They have that influence over their parents of where they want to go to school. And so we want to make sure that we keep those programs and those things that that is most important to the district in front of that audience. So one of the first questions we have to ask is, where do we focus our marketing? And so one of the things we have to ask is who do we want to talk to? Who's our target audience? Okay, and then we got to look at where is the public's attention. So you guys will see on the screen the different forms of media through the 20th century and moving through the 21st century. So what we've identified in conjunction with the PR department here at the district is parents that can make these decisions are adults between the ages of 18 and 49. That's a prime, accurate description of the people making decisions about where students go to school here in this town. One of the things that that's very tough, especially from a decision-making standpoint in any field, is understanding, do I fall into that category? Am I going to be exposed to this marketing campaign? And in a lot of situations, no, you won't. If we're doing our jobs the way we're supposed to, a lot of people in this room might not see the ads that we deliver, and it's because we're very hyper targeted, and we'll get into that, and I'll show you how we do that. To give you a little bit of background on myself, I started my career as a TV media consultant. I worked for the ABC affiliate here for about 5 years in El Paso, and I worked my way up to be one of the highest performing marketing consultants in the market before I transitioned into a digital role. So when I'm giving you guys some of the statistics I'm going to give you on television advertising, I want you to know this comes from a background of somebody who used to work in that field. So TV has a decline, and we know this a lot. You have services now like Netflix, Hulu, streaming platforms. You have YouTube, you have pre-roll. I'd like to ask everybody here, and it might be a larger group than but who still subscribes to TV in the room? I guess I might have been the only one raising my hand. So it's a cable TV.
Yeah,
and
cable TV.
So a few people, most of us are, if you're like my household, we've cut the cord, and we haven't really even felt the need for TV. We haven't looked back. So TV's decline, the images that you see on the screen here is kind of how we used to watch TV over here, and then this is how TV's watched now. Very few eyes actually on the screen. Paid television subscribers in the graph below, you'll see have been constantly declining, and that graph shows you from 2010 through first quarter of 2017. That's the paid subscriber, people paying for some type of cable subscription. In In the 90s, TV would have been the prime place to hit our demographic of parents 18 to 49. 1991, the numbers that you see there are the median age of each broadcast network. That key demographic that we want, 18 to 49, and it's not just the school district, that is the prime demo amongst a majority of advertisers. That's disposable income, that's decision-making power, that's buying power. In 2010, you'll see the drastic difference. 2015, all of those networks have aged out of that demo. And you might ask, why do I only have through 2015? These studies this is the frequency at which that study had been done because TV was so dominant. Digital is now forcing us to do this study more often. So it was 19 years between the first two studies, then they did it in 5 years. You're gonna have the next study in 2019. But you can imagine if the average age of the Fox, the youngest broadcast network, is 49 years old in 2015, where is that today in 2018 with all the options that we have? So I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of when, and I know a lot of people in this room know that your competition runs on television. But are they hitting the target audience? Are they making that impact, or are they buying traditional media because of, you know, most of the time they're partnered with an agency, big out-of-town advertising agency. And you know what an advertising agency is going to do? They're going to pitch TV because it's where they make the biggest % of their revenue by doing television production to produce that. You all don't need that. I was actually talking to some of you before the meeting about how your thoughts about your PR department and the quality of work that they do. It's astounding, and we'll show you some of that creative. But you guys have full service, full high quality production being done right here, and you're not having to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get that. So, but we also see the value in having a broadcast medium like a TV or radio or print or one of those things that we saw in the slide in the 20th century. We understand that that traditional media is still valued today. It's just how can we be smart about this? And we'll show you the numbers, and I'll let JT talk to you about the radio.
Thanks, Jed, and hello, everybody. And thank you again for letting us be here today. I'm JT Chapman. I'm the local sales manager for Townsquare Media. We own KLAQ, KISS, KRD, which is 600 ESPN. We also are a digital firm, and we're an event firm. A number of the city events that you hear about all the time are actually our events, things like the Street Festival, the Balloon Festival, the barbecue. All these things are things that we produce. The reason for that is to reach, pull in an audience, and deliver to our advertisers that audience with loyalty, with belief, and all that kind of thing. Radio is, for the first time in my career, and I've been doing this for a long, long time, and just so you'll know my background a little bit, I come from a long line of educators, including my wife, who just retired after 34 years teaching in speech-language pathology in a competing district here in El Paso. But my father was taught at UTEP, taught at EPCC. My sister teaches middle school. I have a sister that's at Texas Tech. I have another sister that's at UTEP. So you guys are kind of in my heart a little bit, okay? One of the things that's happened is television's always been the dominant. In 2015, it flipped. For the first time ever, radio took over as the #1 reach for broadcast media, okay? And how that happened is radio stayed consistent. If you go back 15 years, 92% of all people used the radio at least 1 hour a week, okay? Today, 93% of the people in the United States, ages 12 plus, use the radio at least 1 hour a week. Television, like print, has really taken a hit with digital. We're not even talking about print because it's non-existent. Does anybody get the newspaper? Yeah, 6, 7 pages of content. Yeah, right, digitally, right. So people are moving over digitally. Radio stayed consistent. It's that local connection. It's that one-on-one and one-to-many. When you're listening to radio and the DJ's talking to you, he's talking to you. That's how you perceive radio. Yet we have 180,000 people that are listening. Okay, so it's one-to-one and one-to-many at the same time. As Jed mentioned, these reports have kind of started to come out more and more. TV's resisted them. Nielsen and Arbitron are now the same company. So when this report came out in 2015, TV went crazy. and that's still their biggest customer. And TV said, no, 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 no. Well, it's become a necessity. You'll see ratings changes in 2019 for radio. It'll be running, instead of every 12 months, it'll be every month. I mean, every 12 weeks, it'll be every 4 weeks. Doing the same thing with TV. A lot of this is changing because of digital. Digital moves so quickly and so accurately that broadcast media has to stay together with it. When you look at the total reach, 18 plus adults, which is kind of that barometer that all media starts with, radio finally overtook them in 2015. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen when we see the last 3 years. We'll get that report probably second quarter of 2019. We drill down a little further than that, and if you'll notice, it's radio, TV, smartphone, PC, tablet. Let's get to the younger group, 1834. This is broken up that way because this is the way that the report was put together. If you look at radio, if you look at the 1834, you've got 93% still with radio, and then you drop to smartphone. TV drops again with that younger audience, okay? And then, of course, PC, tablet.
I just
You
have a question.
yeah, please.
When you mention radio, are you talking specifically about free radio over, like, instead
Yes.
of not Spotify, not Apple Music, not
Right,
YouTube, anything like
yeah,
that?
and we'll address that here in a second, but yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And you'll find, I mean, there's still growth in all areas. The consistency with local radio has to do with the connection. If you're on Sirius, you don't know what's for lunch. You don't know what the traffic's like at I-10 in downtown. You don't know any of that stuff. So that local radio, now if you look at the radio as a national, like ABC radio, NBC radio, CNN radio, all those things, they're dropping. But the local radio, especially in small and medium-sized markets, continues to hold steady, which we're blessed with, to be honest with you. And being with KLAQ, KISS being consistently 1-2 in the market in your key money demos, I have a great life. Okay. So anyway, getting back to this, the smartphone, actually TV, going back to the older growth side of that group, to the 35 to 49-year-old, you'll see that TV comes back over the smartphone, but still is beneath radio, okay? These are old statistics. I don't argue that at all. It's just the way that the industry is moving, okay? Nielsen, Arbitron, Birch, Burrell, all of those guys, they're dealing with the digital world too. And so they're forcing them to move quicker in getting us our information so that advertisers know what they're buying. Oops. When we talk about Sirius, we talk about XM, this was the next big thing, okay? And 20 years ago when they launched it, it was gonna take over everything. The problem is you gotta pay for it. And most people that can consume a media for free, as long as that media is a quality media, aren't gonna pay for a replacement to that media. So this was the big thing, everybody was ready to go, and what's scary about it is it didn't work. Even when they bought Howard Stern and brought him over, the audience didn't transfer. Right now there are 32, as this is first quarter 2017, we'll get a new report for first quarter 2018 coming up in first quarter 2019 because everything's slow when it comes to research. 32 million listeners, or 32 million people are subscribed to Sirius XM. 228 million people use broadcast radio. Big difference between the two. And there's this perception. And the truth behind anything is perception is reality. And until you can address that perception and talk to somebody about that perception, it's not going to change. In their mind, this is the way it is, okay? So that kind of talks a little bit about radio. What we've done with radio does not drive this campaign that you're all in. Digital drives this campaign. But familiarity, recommendations are everything. If I told everybody in this room today, if you're in Minot, North Dakota, Joe's Pit Barbecue is the best barbecue in the world, I don't care where you're from. Driving there 5 years from now, you see it on the corner, somebody told me it was a great place to eat, I'm gonna go eat there. That's how radio works, it's intrusive, okay? It builds up something over and over and over again in your mind until you believe it. That's just the way it works. When we move into this campaign, radio is about 18% of the total spend. And what it does is it gives that, it's about 4 times more likely that people will respond to a digital ad if they hear it on the radio, on a local radio station first. If they're listening to Mike and Trish Kiss in the morning and that's who they believe in and they keep hearing Ysleta over and over again, now they see an ad, they're more likely to go to it, 4 times more likely. That's statistics that Burrell and all of those guys give us as part of the Internet Advertising Bureau, which is a oversight person for statistics and that kind of thing, or group. Moving on, without getting too much more into that, I think let Jed go back into the digital, then we'll come back. Unless there's any questions specific to radio at the moment, we will kind of wrap around back to it to the end. Does anybody have any specific questions?
So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit why digital, and I think we all kind of already know. I mean, it's just how people are using the media these days. So a couple of headlines you'll see. Digital is now 51% of all ad spends. This is overtaking all media. So people buying, biggest brands in the world buying television, radio, billboards, 51% of their business goes towards a digital platform. The graph I wanted to show you on the bottom left over here, the blue bar that you see across the bottom shows the decline in TV spends, whereas the thick blue bar that's right above it shows the increase of digital. If you'll also look at the gray bar right above that, that's your radio. That's how consistent that gray bar has been with radio. So while digital's increasing and radio remains consistent, you have TV, print, and other forms of media dropping off. So this is why you'll see like why your campaign is built around this structure. Also, just to kind of show you a little bit about TV video spend, $16 billion will be, in digital video will be spent in digital video this year. This is outside of television, $16 billion by 2020 is what they're saying. And this information comes from eMarketer from March of 2016. So we understand that we need to spend in digital, and so, you know, why has the district been working with Townsquare? So let me tell you a little bit about our company and what we do, and kind of some things that'll kind of give you some insight into your campaign. So Townsquare Media, we're a multimedia powerhouse. Like I told you, we're one of the largest aggregates of ad exchanges, and I'll get into what an ad exchange is in a little bit. But 4 pillars make up our company. The national media, which is we own and operate all of these websites that you see on the left: Taste of Country, Pop Crush, Loudwire, XXL. You've probably seen, these are pop culture brands that are associated with different music brands around the country. We own and operate those websites. We generate about 77 million unique visitors every month with those exchanges. And so why that's important, your ads can run on those sites when we show you this digital campaign, but with those 77 million unique viewers that we are unique impressions that we deliver with those exchanges, we also have first-party data from that. So we have radio stations in 68 markets around the country. We have websites on 312 that are associated with 312 radio stations. We operate a platform called Seize the Deal, which is much like Groupon. You guys might have heard that on the radio, where you get offers like you can purchase like $25 gift certificate to a restaurant for 17 bucks. Really cool. But that gives us first-party purchase behavior about what the brands that people interact with. So when we're going to show you data that we put into your digital campaign, we're not only using third-party data, but it's all first-party that we've collected. The local media, which is the stations that you know us by. The live events, which is some of the events you might know us by, El Paso Street Fest, some of the ones that you'll be involved in, the Back to School Expo, and the Southwest Drone competition that we put on with the schools in the local area, and then the business-to-business side, which is our Ignite, and that's our digital platform. So that's kind of what makes up our company. So why us? You know, we have a broad reach. So a lot of the logos that you're seeing on the screen, they're called what we call ad exchanges. And so the way this digital advertising works is very similar to how hotel rooms or plane tickets sit on Travelocity or Priceline.com. There's an exchange of all this inventory that goes on, so that instead of having to go to each one of these websites and say, I want to buy ESPN, I want to buy HGTV, I want to buy CNN, that would cost you a lot of money, and somebody would have a really tough job contacting all these people. So what we do is you can come to a company like us, and we can put your ads out on all these sites through an exchange. So some of you have probably seen that this happens to all of us. You go to Amazon, put anything in your Amazon cart, and then you don't buy it, and then you go to your favorite website and that exact product is following you around the web, that's exactly what we're doing. We're using that information to target your users, and I'll get into the specifics of that. We're partnered with 76 of these exchanges, and you might think like, well, what does that mean in the grand scheme of things? There's only 80 that exist. We're partnered with 76. Most digital companies partner with 1 or 2. The one being Google DoubleClick that you see in the corner up there. Google has the largest exchange. It's the biggest in the world, but it's only one exchange. And at any given time, it can only reach 30 to 40% of any audience that you want. Not really good when you're talking about the biggest ad exchange in the country. And I'm actually gonna pop out of this really quick, and I'm gonna show you in real time what Google DoubleClick consists of. This is a website called Similar Tech, and they grade technologies. Oops. Just to give you an idea, Google DoubleClick is made up of about 2.8 million websites. We know the internet is consisting of 14 to 16 million viable ad inventory websites. Not a lot of chance of hitting the entire internet when you're just partnered with Google. One thing you'll notice, and I don't know if you guys can see it, I'll try to highlight it here. DoubleClick is free to use. The district could go to DoubleClick today, cut Townsquare Media out, cut any ad agency out, and go directly to them. Google makes that easy. It's free to use. But there are other exchanges out there that are very important, and I'm going to show you. And we do provide this to you as well. We are a Google partner. In fact, my boss, Rick Powerhouse, who I directly report to, this network that we're talking about right there, he built it when he was 23 years old. And he sold it to Google, brokered himself with a job with them, and now he steers our ship, and he has probably the best understanding of how that exchange works in the industry. So we still use it. Yes, it's not his anymore, but he built it. I mean, he understands it. So I'm also going to show you technology called OpenX. We know how important our mobile phones are to us these days. OpenX is the largest exchange of the top mobile apps on the website. Your CNNs, your ESPNs, the highest traffic mobile apps, the 419,000 of them consist in OpenX. You will also notice that OpenX costs money, not free. The minimum to partner with OpenX, if the district wanted to go and say, hey, I don't want Townsquare Media to run my ads on OpenX, we're gonna go cut them out, it's $1 million a month. That's the spend that they require for them. The reason for that is because, like I said, it's premium inventory that every advertiser in the world wants to be on. You have those resources available to you in your campaigns. Townsquare Media has 33,000 national clients. We do the digital advertising for companies like McDonald's, General Motors, Walmart, Home Depot. And because we have these 33,000 national clients, they meet that $1 million minimum. And so you as an advertiser can use those resources just because you're in our pool of clients. So we offer that to you. A lot of other companies won't do that because that doesn't work well with their margins. TV companies that offer digital because TV revenue has dipped off. They need to supplement that revenue. We talked about radio ratings remaining constant. When I was hired at Townsquare Media, since I've been there, in the 5 years that I've been there, I have not put together a single radio campaign myself or had to deal with any revenue loss or had my agenda altered because of where our business is going. Everything that I do is 100% client facing and is recommended for we put together with your campaign in mind first. So let me jump back into our presentation. We also provide white glove service throughout the whole process. And so I kind of want to tell you what that consists of is we do everything from work with the PR department, from setting up the strategy to helping with the creative if necessary. In your case, we don't, because your PR department handles creative and it's flawless, and I'll show you some of that. We monitor this campaign to make sure that we can make optimizations along the way and change things as we go. So instead of just giving you what you bought and paid for and hoping that that works, it's a constant communication to constantly change that message, make sure that we're hitting the right people, and change the audience parameters depending on the creative. So, and we do that, and we come and meet with, some of you guys know, the cabinet. We come and meet with the cabinet about once a quarter, and we try to meet with the PR department as often as we can, usually about once a month or once every couple of months. We're in constant communication through email and phone as well. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we've done so far. So we, as Dr. Delatorre mentioned, we've been working with the district for over a year, and I kind of want to tell you where we've going and what our strategy is. So at the top of this page, you'll see the total, the word impressions. Impressions is a fancy word for the number of ads we've delivered, okay? So starting in March through Friday of last week, we've delivered 2.2 million display ads across the internet. Now, these are ads on your favorite websites. You go to ESPN.com, there's an ad across the top of the page, right? Go to CNN, there's a box ad on the side, on the right. These are all places for your ads. We reach 99.82% of the internet. So any site on the any space on the internet is eligible if we're hitting that target audience. The clicks that we've delivered with this portion of the campaign so far, 6,000, with a click-through rate of 0.28% and site conversions at 741. Now, I'm not just running through that and pretending like you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So the click-through rate, you might think 0.28%. What does that mean? Like, is that high? Is that good? It seems kind of low, right? That's a small number. The average click-through rate on digital display campaigns across the country is about 0.1%. But that's just the national average. You guys aren't the same business as a bakery or a pizzeria or an auto dealership. So I like to compare that to your specific industry. So the specific industry, the average click-through rate for education falls right there in the middle. You'll see that gray bar at a 0.22. This is Google, these are Google benchmarks. This is not something that my company put together. This is from WordStream. This is a Google company. The average click-through rate for the education field is a 0.28. So if we go back to this, the 0.22, I'm sorry, we're performing at a 0.28 currently overall. But as you can see on the graph, over the last 6 months, that click-through rate fluctuates. And so it's on us to make sure that we keep that performing the way it is. And then we look and we break it down by the individual tactics that we're taking to reach your audience. And I'll get into those in a second as well. But we look at those individual click-through rates and make sure that they're performing before we make any optimizations, any changes, any substitutions, things like that. So each of these tactics that you'll see here at the bottom is one of the things that we're running. So I have something called advanced audience. And what is advanced audience? So advanced audience is we're actually going out and we're looking at the behaviors and the audience demographics that your audience falls in. So we're targeting parents 18 to 49 with kids ages 4 to, I believe we cut it off at, did we say 17? 17. I think one campaign I changed that to 15 because I was trying to get 10th graders. I felt like juniors and seniors, by the time they're juniors and seniors, you can't get them to switch. They're going to their school. So we cut that off at 10th grade in some situations, but kids with parents with kids the ages 4 to 17. In some cases, like for the current creative we're running right now for the Young Women's Academy, we're running creative targeted towards parents who have daughters between the age, about junior high, early high school, right in their end of elementary, kind of looking for those types of parents. So that's what the audience targeting does. It allows us to go in there. And you might ask, like, well, how do you have all this information? So we're plugged into 11 data mining platforms. And I'm actually going to show you guys a little fun thing. Oh, we're going to stalk you. I heard you. I'm going to show you something. This is called, you guys can do this at home. Do this on a desktop computer, not on a mobile device. But if you pull this up, this is called bluekai.com, and they're owned by Oracle, a data cloud. So when I pull this up on myself, this has what the internet sees me as. So I'm not sure, this just popped up right before the meeting, the ages 55 to 64. I'm not sure why that's up there because right below it has me labeled as Gen Y, a millennial, which I am. I have to admit I am. But it shows that I have a high school diploma. I do have a college degree. I'm not sure why it says some. But then you'll notice that I fall into a lot of categories. I can come in here and look at hobbies and interests. And of course, I'm going to fall into a Halloween buyers thing because my wife goes nuts for the holidays. And so I had to buy a bunch of stuff. My daughter wore about 4 different costumes this Halloween. She's only 18 months old, but that's how it goes. But it shows my interest. NFL enthusiast, I'm really into sports, things like that. And if you go deeper and deeper on these things, my professional interests, I'm looking at business to business, finance decision makers. I am in a sales field, so I have, I work for a company, or I work with companies that have under 10 employees, broadcasting, all these different things. And if you guys go deeper, you can actually see, it'll tell you how much you make, what your neighbors are interested in, how much they make. So it's really cool. So all this data is out there on everybody, and you can actually, a little scary? A little scary? Anybody logging in trying to delete this? Because you can, if you want. You can opt out of this, but most people don't know it exists. So how can you opt out of what you don't know exists? So, little fun exercise to show you all. So let's go. All right. So when I say that I'm targeting these audience segments, you can see that these data pools exist on each and every one of us. When we target somebody, you'll see the word contextual. I target people by what they're reading. So if you've ever been reading an article, like maybe about like traveling on vacation, you'll get ads that say, like the top 5 tips for traveling abroad or something like that, because they know you've booked a vacation or that you're in the mindset of researching your vacation, and they want to be the company that provides you that resource first. Gives you credibility as an advertiser, and it gives you a high response rate because you got somebody in that mindset. So we target by context as well. Has anybody heard the term geofencing? Anybody at all? Some people nodding their heads. The gentleman in the back, thanks. I appreciate that. He knows what geofencing is. Geofencing is actually where we target a geographic location on the map. So we can actually take a pin, put it in the map, and say in this circle, as you go into that circle with your mobile phone, you are more likely to see ads for this advertiser. Pretty crazy. A lot of people offer geofencing. So why Townsquare geofencing? Well, we actually so the way geofencing works is just basically like I told you. But if I'm with my daughter and I go to the place that we're geofencing, and that's here, and I walk right through it, my phone, I never pulled out my phone to look at a mobile site or a place where I can see ads. So I won't see the ads. That's the caveat. You have to be in the fence. You can't just drive right through. You can't be there for a few minutes and not use your phone. You have to have your phone out. That's how traditional geofencing works. One thing that is unique to Townsquare Media with our geofencing is we take a look-back window. So, I don't know if do you guys have your phones? Can we run through one more? iPhones. We can do it on an Android, but I'd have to give you a couple of extra steps. But for fun, iPhone users, please do this with me. Go into your settings. Okay? You're going to scroll down to where you see the blue hand that says privacy. Hit that. Everybody there? Very cool. Very top, it says location services. Hit that. Okay? Now we're going to scroll down to the bottom of this page, system services. We're going to hit that. We're going to scroll down to the next section. You can tell they really want you to find this, right? You hit the significant locations. It's going to ask you for your password, your Face ID, your thumbprint. Now look at your history on there. You can click El Paso, Texas. It has every single destination that your phone goes to. You stop for coffee in the morning. Shows you've been there, how long you were there, what route you took to get there, what time you left your house in the morning. Pretty creepy, right? Pretty creepy. So every phone on the planet, every smartphone on the planet, which we know about, I think we're up to 88% of Americans use a smartphone now. Every smartphone on the planet keeps that information regardless of whether you use your location services or not. It's for emergency purposes. So if you're ever in a car accident, you needed to communicate with somebody, you couldn't vocalize that, they need to know exactly where to send the help for the phone. It used to be where they would ping a cell tower and it would find your phone within a 1-mile radius. Well, a 1-mile radius in a city like Los Angeles, New York City, even El Paso, is too much time for somebody to be searching for somebody. So That information is available to 911, Rescue 911, and it's housed on a public database. We use that information to target your customers. So the way we do that for your campaign is we geofence high schools, elementary schools, not only the districts, but your competitors in the market, and we have that day parted to drop off and pick up time. So we hit parents while they sit out front of their children's schools in the morning between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 a.m., and again in the afternoons from about 2:30 to about 4:30 to maximize drop-off times. One of the cool things about this, and your teachers can probably attest to this if you go ask around the district, but your phone recognizes when we looked at those significant locations. You ever wonder how your phone tells you like you're 17 minutes from home, 20 minutes to get to work? Your phone labels your place of work as being in that location for more than 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, and your home for where it is overnight for at least 6 hours. So that's how it determines when you get a new phone or a new account or something, that's how it knows where your phone. So your teachers probably are not seeing these ads when we geofence these schools because their phones are labeled as their place of work. And so when a parent sits out front and a teacher is sitting in that same spot, your teachers aren't seeing it, your parents are. So we're able to limit that and be very, very precise with that targeting, with the information that you just saw in your own device. So. The site conversions, I did want to point out, those are just as good as a click. What those are is that's somebody who was exposed to our campaign, maybe didn't click on the ads because they were busy at work, or they've told themselves that they don't click on ads, and they've later Googled or found their way back to the district's website organically. So they were exposed to a campaign maybe on Tuesday afternoon. Friday, when they got a little bit of time free in their day, they remembered, oh, I saw that ad for Ysleta Independent School District, and they Google, and they find their way to your site. So just as good as a click. We talked about the average. So I wanted to show you, we talked about that creative. These are some examples of the creative that your team, your PR department puts together. I mean, this is some high quality production. When you look at the ads in your experience around the web, these images are high quality, they're clean, your message is there, and they're just positive images. Yeah, I would feel extremely proud of this creative. It's some of the best that we run. And you'll see some of the different messages that we've ran throughout the year. The gentleman earlier was talking about Thomas Manor. We did a campaign for Thomas Manor earlier this year with our creative. You'll also notice the El Paso Community College logo on those ads. We also do the marketing. I personally run the campaign for El Paso Community College as well for recruiting high school students for their. So it kind of with a lot of the same tactics that we use for the district. So you're also running video. We talked about kind of TV and maybe getting away from that. There's powerful video on the internet, and we're running in a couple different places for you. So the pre-roll ads that we talk about are, you guys ever go to a website and try to watch a video on the news or something, but you got to watch a 15-second ad first, right? And you can't skip it until it's over. I know, sorry. Those are your ads. 320,000 since March. If you tried to buy 320,000 commercials on television, millions of dollars spent. Like I said, I used to work in television. One 10p news spot cost this town $600. Patrick's not here anymore. Patrick Brown can tell you he buys them for Viva Auto Group. $600 a spot. $600 a spot in one of our video platforms, we're talking thousands of impressions. Guaranteed viewership as well. So one thing, as we're all in here right now, television commercials are running that we're not seeing and that advertisers are still paying for. Digital doesn't have to fit into those molds. A commercial is not started until somebody sits in front of a device, says, I want to watch this show, and they are actively engaged, and you get guaranteed viewership. Same thing with YouTube. So YouTube, we've delivered 45,000 ads since March. 27,000 of them have been viewed to completion. Those are the only impressions that the district has paid for. The difference between them, the ones that were skipped, anybody who hits that skip ad button, those are not impressions that are counted towards the district. We only counted as a full impression if they watch it to completion. So if it's a 30-second commercial and they skip out at 29 seconds, 29 seconds of free branding for the district. So, and you have a 60% view-through rate on YouTube. Average view-through rate, about 15 to 20% on any YouTube campaign. The reason for that, we're hitting the right audience, and you guys have the right creative that people want to watch. They want to see it all the way through. They want, when this commercial starts, it's not something that they're actively going for the skip button. We also have social media running. Social media is very impactful. Facebook is huge, especially amongst parents, and the ability for a campaign to go viral without you having to pay for it. So you pay for a certain number of impressions with us. Delivery, this is what we're delivering. But if I want to share, I see an ad for the district and I know that one of my friends is shopping for schools for their children, I can share that, and that doesn't come at any cost to you because you paid for the impression to me, and if I share that to my friend, that's just me being a kind friend, knowing that, hey, they need this, so your campaign can grow like a spider web, basically. So far, we've reached 210,000 unique users. So that, what I mean by a unique user is this is somebody who has seen this for the first time. At a frequency of 8.92. So those 210,000 people are seeing ads on social media about an average of 8 times, almost 9 times. We've delivered almost 2 million ads just on social media alone. And we have a 0.21% click-through rate, which is great. And you'll see another example of some of the great creative of what it looks like on Facebook and Instagram. Some of the placements that you'll see of where these ads are running up, they run in the desktop feed of the social media. They run on Instagram stories, Facebook stories, all the popular places that people like to scroll and check out their friends. Those are where your ads are available. The age groups, this just kind of goes back to our strategy. On your social media, I have no age restrictions limited to this. This is 100% audience-based, based on if you have children, if you're a grandparent, because of that viral factor. We want anybody to be able to share this. But what our reporting shows is that the top 2 age groups that are responding to these ads, clicking on them, 18 to 24 and 23 to 34. So 18 to 34, that's what we talked about. And that's kind of where we wanted to focus. We're focused on 18 to 49 because we understand your high school parents are going to be in that age range. But this is where your audience is, and this kind of backs up what we're doing on social media. Give you some more examples of creative. Here's the Thomas Manor social creative that your team put together. They write this copy, they provide the images, we just assemble it for them. And this is another great one. Really good message for the Young Women's Academy. Really like it. So really quick, I'm just going to toss it back to JT so he can tell you how the radio's performing.
With the radio, we've been very successful with the campaign. Again, the radio, like the digital, all comes out of the PR department. And we run radio campaigns concurrent with, so it'll be parallel. If we're running a young women's, that's the radio commercial. It's going to be running a young women's. If we're running one that's targeted to women and one that's targeted to men, then the commercial that's targeted to men will run on KLAQ, which is where the majority of the listenership is, as far as men is concerned, and KISS will have the women's. So we stay consistent with it so that we're constantly reinforcing those ads that they're seeing and increasing the chances they're going to click, and more importantly, increasing the chances they're going to bring their children to be part of your district. We've been very successful. KLAQ and KISS consistently won in the market, 1 and 2 in the market in the key money demos, 1849, 2554. This market is very radio rich, but radio poor at the same time, in that there are 30 some odd stations that you can find on the dial, and well over half of them are actually licensed in New Mexico. So the English language stations in the marketplace are in a unique situation. You won't find a KLAQ, a rock radio station, being #1 in the market for 33 of 40 years in other markets. You find that here. That's kind of unique to being radio on the border, okay? The really cool thing about what we've done is when you create the top of mind awareness and I did this with the board, so, or with the cabinet, but anybody, what's your number one search engine? Okay, 100% of the time, I've gotten that exact same answer, but it's not true. It's your brain. If you already know the answer, you don't have to Google it. What you'll Google then is what you want to know from that place. YISD Young Women's versus Young Women's, how do I get my daughter prepped for college? And that's where you want to be, is you want to be that one where they go, oh yeah, now how do I get that information? Okay, so that is a trick question, and I apologize, but it is the truth. If you know the answer, you don't Google it. Okay, radio's done very well for you all. The way that we've set this up is very consistent, but low dough. And there's two ways to do radio. If you want to sell a bunch of widgets on a Friday afternoon or a Saturday, then you just blow it up. You start on Tuesday, you run 8, 10, 12 spots a day, and then Sunday it's over. Whatever happened, happened. The other way to do radio is that long, drawn-out, consistent advertising. 1 or 2 commercials placed strategically a day that continues to grow and grow and grow that frequency as time goes on. Does anybody remember Pat Goff's TV and Appliance Warehouse? Okay. Do you know he ran 1 commercial on 3 radio stations and 2 commercials on one commercial on 2 TV stations a day, and that's all he did? If you go back to thinking about that, how about Brian Birds? Anybody heard of Brian Birds? Yeah, same thing. He runs 3 weeks a month, 1 commercial a day. So rather than looking to get a whole bunch of stuff to happen right away, this is about that long, drawn out, continue to grow, continue to hear it, continue to image. And it's done very well for y'all. The morning show on KISS impacts about 120,000 listeners a week rather, and with KLAQ, it's somewhere in the 180 range. And combined, we can hit 21, 34-year-old adults, average of 9 times with your deal. 250,000 total adults, 21 to 34, 9 times in 26 weeks. It's a big number. If we move into that, this is really hard to see, but I'll give it to you. This is just an example of a schedule. Okay, this is not something I put together. This is actually put into a system that's married to Nielsen ratings. Okay, so I type it in, whatever it is. I can't manipulate it. But your KISS campaign, for instance, will talk to 80,200 people that are women between the ages of 21 and 54. Okay, over the period of time, it's going to talk to them a total of 21.3 times over that year. That's a lot of impressions. That's a lot of people saying, remember me, remember me, remember me. Okay? It's a really strong radio schedule with a very small investment. KLAQ, the total radio, I'll give to you in a moment, but KLAQ is 153,700 persons between the ages of 21 and 54. KLAQ is a mass appeal radio station. It's kind of strange for a rock radio station to be that way, but everybody comes in and out. It just seems like everybody knows who we are, whether you listen to us or not. You know us through event, or you know us through something that happened with our radio station. Our KLAQ morning show is the biggest morning show in the Southwest by far. We've been all sorts of national awards and that type of thing, but that's just all stats. Your total campaign, when you combine the two over a period of a year, will reach 250,700 people ages 21 to 54. Okay? Now, that's not our whole listening audience. There are 18 to 21-year-olds. There are 12 to 21-year-olds. There are 54, 55 plus that listens as well, so it's more people than that. But that's what it impacts. And an average of, where's my average, my frequency? 9.7 times for the total number. So it's a big number, okay? Are there any questions? I know radio is a lot, with digital you can attach something to it. Radio, we have 40 years of doing it in this town very successfully. So I draw a lot on that and the clients that we've been with us and that type of thing. Are there any questions specific to the radio campaign? Yes, please.
Well, not just specific to radio, but digital and radio. How much of our advertisement is bilingual in Spanish, given the fact that El Paso has such a large Hispanic population? Many of our constituents don't even speak English.
Yeah, we're a vendor. We don't have any Spanish language radio stations, okay? So being the Townsquare Media brought this proposal along with other people proposing and we were chosen, we don't have that opportunity. Jed can speak to the Spanish language, which is going to blow you away as far as digital is concerned.
I'll elaborate on the digital side of things. We have the ability to hit browsers with Spanish language. We don't have that set in place because in the amount of users that use the internet actually in Spanish is very few. So you go, like the internet is the internet where you go. So you go to Mexico and people still consume it in English. In fact, the United States isn't even in the top 10 countries when it comes to Spanish browsing.
And I understand the digital format. I completely understand. Facebook is Facebook no matter where it is in the world. But how much of our advertisement that's on Facebook or Instagram or any of these digital formats is actually in a bilingual setting where constituents that don't speak English can still get the same information that we're trying to sell to them?
Like I said, we have the ability to do that. We have elected to not. We can actually implement Spanish creative in there. The reason that we haven't, though, is because when we get the data back, like if I was to break down I run a lot of campaigns that do include Spanish creative for other advertisers. And when I get the report back and see the percentage of the amount that we delivered in Spanish and it's all dictated by internet usage, it's so small. It's just that, I mean, even when people use it as their primary language in their home, the internet statistics just aren't there. And especially here in the United States, like I said, it can be implemented, but the United States isn't even in the top 10 in countries that use Spanish as a browser setting. Even in the most Hispanic markets that you see across, I mean, we're 85% Hispanic, but we also see that in broadcast. So when I sold television, you look at your English language television stations and the ratings that they get compared to a Spanish language, they're not even close. Like most of the Spanish stations here in the market can't even get rated because they don't have enough people to fill out those diaries.
Thank you.
So, any other questions that we can answer?
Let me address a little bit on that too. In the top 5 radio stations in the marketplace, the first Spanish language station to hit is not Spanish language. It's owned in Mexico and it's Hit FM 104.5. There's nobody that reaches the top. Now, to answer your question, we do not have bilingual advertising in place for you to answer that question. Okay, in either way. Okay, I will say this though, the marketplace is deceptive. You guys probably have a better feel for it, depending on the neighborhood, than most because of your ESL programs, which is what one of my sisters teaches, by the way, immersion. So I get it. You know, maybe in the lower valley, it's going to be a little higher than it is on the west side, or a lot higher than it is on the west side. Different pockets of the areas, that's a challenge. That's a challenge for anybody doing any kind of marketing. Okay? Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the truth of the matter is, and Jim Phillips pioneered this. Jim Phillips was the owner of KHAY. And KHAY was the first live broadcast radio station in the market. He paid $6,000 for it, sold it for $24 million. So a lot of years later, somebody asked him once, way back in the day, how do you advertise to Hispanics in El Paso? You advertise. That's the answer. You advertise. You can't miss. 83% of the marketplace is Hispanic surnamed. Okay, so the last statistic I saw was 19% of the marketplace is Spanish first. Well, you really have to break that down a little further because it's not 19% of the marketplace, it's 19% of the 82%. So it's a much smaller pool of people than you would imagine from the broadcast standpoint. Way more important to you guys, and that may be something the PR department can work to solve that and work that. But our group are all English language radio stations.
Just to show you guys real quick, I know this is like larger scale, but in the terms of the world's internet usage population, as of June 30th of this year, 8.1% of internet users use their Spanish settings and actually have it in Spanish to translate into Spanish. So, and to answer your question as well, like why not just run Spanish creative on an English platform? You get actually a very different response. If somebody has their settings set to kind of consume their media in one language and they get it in another one, you almost have like a complete reversal of their response rate. It's almost like they just don't associate your brand with anything. So The only way we would run that is if somebody did have those settings and there's just the numbers are just so small.
We're about done here. I know it's been long.
You just have that guy.
So, to the fun part. The other things that we do with y'all is a couple of events. What'd you do?
My daughter showed up on the screen.
Oh, he does that a lot, which is okay. She's a beautiful little girl. The events that we do. Now, what you're seeing here are pictures from the different events. You can see the cheerleaders, the backpacks. That comes from the Back to School Expo, where we partnered and help you with your backpack, and you guys are amazing. I've been doing events for 40 years, and I've never seen a more organized group, including us, and we do a lot of big, huge events. I mean, 915 Beer Fest is ridiculous. A lot of fun, but ridiculous as far as what you guys do is amazing. I really compliment you on what I saw. I almost would like to learn what you did, but that would take a few years of teaching me to change things. The other thing that we did was we introduced this year the first ever drone competition in El Paso, and the PR department had the foresight to say, yes, we want to be part of that. And that's where we talk about, earlier we were talking about perceptions and realities. The reality is that it's open, we invite all districts to participate, okay? They're actually putting teams together. We do it at an Ysleta campus, and it's promoted as Ysleta is the title sponsor. Ysleta, I'm sorry. YISD, yeah, just as the district. Anyway, the perception that you're the leaders in the drone world in this town is set. We do so much marketing with it. We don't invite the public to it. So it's more of image marketing that we're doing, okay? And so there is that perception and that understanding, and that just goes to when we're delivering ads for the different schools. Now, here's another place that you're perceived to be the leader, so people are going to gravitate towards it. That's the intent. The other thing is just the backpack and being part of Cielo Vista Mall on tax-free weekend doing a back-to-school expo was a no-brainer, and it was an incredible event, especially with adding the backpack to it. You guys were amazing. Beyond that, that's kind of who we are and what we do and what we've done for you in the past and moving forward, what we'll continue to do. If there are concerns, questions, we would happily meet with anybody one-on-one. If you had deeper questions, we would be willing to answer questions this evening. We will provide you with the new statistics as they start coming to us in 2019. Anything that we do as far as the campaigns that we run, whether it be radio or digital, we can tell you how they're succeeding. But the statistics that we talked about earlier, that's stuff from outside of us. That's not proprietary to us. So as it comes in, we will update you. Are there any questions? No? Hope that we kept everybody awake. And we do thank you very much for your time.
Don't call me later and ask me how to delete your phone history.
Yeah.
All right? Maybe tracked.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think we need a health break, so we'll come back in about 10 minutes. think we've got almost everybody back in here.
All right, we'll get started with our third presentation, Literacy Transforms Lives. I'll introduce Ms. Christine Gleason, Diane Flores, and Naomi Esparza. They are directors, high school, middle school, elementary school.
Hi, everybody. What I learned from the last presentation is that I feel like we should bring a computer science teacher here to board workshop. We'll get proficient in creating software that can steal stuff from us, like how much we make and stuff like that, and then we'll sell it to Google and we'll all be good. How does that sound? Right before Christmas. Okay, well, that being said, we're here today to present about how literacy transforms lives and some of the things that we are doing here in the district to make sure that all of our students stay on grade level and are able to get post-secondary certification, whether that's an actual industry certification, whether it's college, by the time they leave our hands. So you will look here, you will see this beautiful young girl, and we're going to do it backwards today. I'm high school, so I'm going to talk about the little ones, and then Diane will finish up with the big ones. And so we want all of our students to have successful beginnings, and we want to spend a little bit of time talking to you all today about what we have in place to make sure that this happens. But before that happens, I want to point out board goal number 1 to you all. And as you all know, one of the things that we want to focus on is making sure that our students are going to increase performance in all assessed areas to ensure that all students are provided opportunity to graduate college and career readiness. Specifically today, we're just going to be focusing on literacy, on reading and English language arts. That being said, we've got some data up here for you all, and because data can be interesting in certain different ways, we want you all to think of this like a story. What story is this data telling us about our students? You will see here that you have data for reading grades 3 through 8. Then you'll notice that you have writing 4 through 7. And then you'll notice English 1 and 2 says not applicable because those are not age-specific tests, they're class-specific tests. You will also notice that English 1 and 2 don't have separated components with the reading and the writing because that test is 50-50. It's 50% reading, it's 50% writing. The kids take it all on the same day, and then we can break apart the scores by looking at individual student data from there. Here is our 2016, 2017, and 2018 data, and I will give you all just a second to look at that. And you all, I would like to point out to you all also that we will be providing you with more updated data when it comes out later this month so that you have something to compare this to so the story makes a little more sense. You will also notice up here that we have a target of 90% for our students, so we still have a little ways to go, but we will get there. Now, one of the things I want to point out to you all also is this is the all students in the approaches grade level category. What we're doing in this district is we are no longer thinking about students as approaching grade level. We're looking at students in the meets and the masters category. Those are the two categories that the state tests on that we are really having our teachers look at, having conversations about meets and masters rather than approaches. You'll also notice here that our target here in the meets is 60%, and this is coming directly from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, who they want all students to at least have some post-secondary, whether it's a certification or the enter into college by 2030. So that's where 60 comes from. Here's our master's grade level. And again, here our target is 30%. And we're having conversations about what we can do to keep these kids here. The kids that are already scoring masters, what are we doing to make sure they stay in the master's category? And what are we doing to get our kids from the meets category to the master's category? Here's more data. This is all combined. Reading 3 through 8, writing 3 through 8, and English 1 and 2, end of course. You'll see again, looking at meets and masters, we want to focus on those columns. Okay. Is that too fast? You guys good with data? Everybody happy? Okay, next. This is our ELL students, very important population, and I do want to point out that this is all of our ELL students. It's important to remember when you're looking at this one right here that these are students who may have, 1 month in the country, 1 month with the language, versus students who have been in ELL for several years. So that's all of the students together. And finally, our SPED data. What's important to know here, and I think this is very profound, is that when you give a student who is borderline intellectually disabled and has a very low IQ but is not quite ID yet, and a student who has a very high IQ, these kids are taking the same exact test. So the SPED student is put on the same playing field with somebody with a much higher IQ, and they're both, again, it's the same test. So we're really proud of our numbers moving in this direction. We think that our special education department is doing a really great job. We also have the highest population of special ed students in the area. So that's important to know when you're looking at this too. Yes, sir.
On the previous slide, does that also include our ELL SPED students as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Sparsa, who's going to talk to you a little bit about iStation.
Good evening. The data that you see right here for iStation, it's a wonderful tool. It's another data piece that we use to help our students succeed. So if you look at iStation here, we used Eastwood Knowles as an example. Eastwood Knowles has it from, of course, up to 8th grade. So we're showing you grades 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. With iStation, this is a great indicator of how students are going to do on STAR. So you saw all the STAR data pieces. Now we're kind of drilling down and showing you what the iStation piece is. So you'll notice in this area, when you see a student who's at Tier 1, that means the student is right at grade level. That student is ready to go. When we see a student at Tier 2, that student just needs a little bit of intervention so that we can help that student succeed. When you see a student who is at Tier 3, that student needs individualized, intensive intervention. And if we can do that with all of our students, we will make sure that they succeed. The beauty about iStation also is you'll see if you look at the last column where it says the difference, the minus sign that you see there is also a good sign. I know that sounds strange to say that, but a minus can be good. So let me explain that for you. You'll see if Tier 1, the minus that's there, well, that one's not good because you'll see the -3, meaning that those 3 students had to move somewhere. They had to move either to Tier 2 or to Tier 3. So we lost those kids somewhere, but it'll reconcile later on. But then you look at Tier 3, which is the -2, that's a good minus, because then those students moved up either to Tier 2 or to Tier 1. So that's where you see the minus sign being played with the difference. 6th grade, you'll see the same as we actually use iStation from K-8, pre-K-8. So it's a great tool to use for data. The beauty about iStation also is not only did I say earlier that it's a STAR indicator, but also it's an individualized pathway for students. So students are on iStation, they actually get to go onto iStation, learn their listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills. Those are the same language proficiency descriptors that we use for our ELL students. So it's just our best practices. This is the tool that the teachers can use so they can individualize instruction because iStation allows that to happen. It allows our students to be on a certain pathway. We drill down, we individualize, we personalize that instruction for them, and then we'll see success for our students. So now what does all this data mean that you've seen? Well, our beautiful literacy circle that you see right here, it talks about the bullseye. Our whole student, our whole child. That is our focus. In order for us to be successful, we need to make sure that our students are successful academically, socially, and emotionally. So it encompasses everyone that you see in the circle. And just as we need to pull from the top when we are giving that first teach, we need to pull from the top when we're talking from our leaders. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Christine, who's going to talk about transforming leaders.
Can I just...
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Go for it. All right. No, go. You first.
Yeah, on that iStation, it's very interesting on the data. Who does the collection and analysis of all the students that go through that iStation?
The computer actually aggregates the data for us. Teachers can pull up report, but something that you see right here was actually done by Raul Mendelin for us.
No, the individual reports.
Yes.
Who does the analysis of that?
Our teachers do.
Oh,
Our
your
teachers, yes, sir.
And they do it on the computer?
Yes, sir. Or they could print out the reports.
Okay, and then where do those go?
The reports?
Well, the analysis and all of that, where does that go?
If the teachers pull down the reports, they get to individually see their students. Then they get to see where their students are stuck. So if a student needs help with a reading comprehension skill, the teacher will work on lessons with that. So the teacher can actually narrow it down to their own classes, to their own individual students.
And then the aggregate of the whole school, how does that?
This one right here, this is a report that Raul Mendelin gave us, and this is something that all the principals have access to, and all principals also have access to all iStation
Who
reports.
gave it to you?
Raul Mendelin in our area department. He works in an area here for us. He's the guru of data here at Central.
He's a computer guy? Okay.
So teachers and principals have access to iStation, and they use it as a vehicle to assess their students, their progress. So the report that you pull from iStation for your students is most valuable to you as the teacher, given that now you're expected to address the needs of every child in your classroom, both those that are doing very well and those that need a great deal of support. It also allows you to see students' progress over time because they do it once a month, every month, and you want to make sure that your students are headed in the right direction. So for that 5th grade, Tier 1, 2, 3, what happened, if you look at it, is the 3 students that were in Tier 1 fell to Tier 2. The 2 students that were in Tier 3 went up to Tier 2, that's 5, and they have 1 new student who happened to test at the Tier 2 level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. But at the district level, who monitors that?
The district, we do. Here at the Division of Academics, elementary has access to the
So you
reports, and so
follow
does
that
middle school. Yes, sir.
On a monthly basis?
Yes, sir. It's called the ISIP report, and we follow that monthly.
Okay.
Can I ask, why, I understand it was just an example, but why do we pick Eastwood Knolls, which is one of the highest achieving elementaries? Why didn't we get like a district presentation of how successful it's been across the entire district?
Well, this was to just give you a brief snapshot of what it looks like from an elementary to a middle school level. We just wanted to give you a brief snapshot. If we were to give all the reports, it'd be like 37 pages just for elementary and about 7 pages just for middle
Well,
schools.
I don't want the entire report, but just a summary of, if you look at the grades, you can't do it for the grade level, like 5th grade, Tier 1, we had this many students from September to October across the district. This is how much it went up or down?
Yes, we can actually, it's called the tier movement report. We can actually do that for the district
Okay.
at every grade level. Yes, sir.
Could we see that at some point? Just to
Yes, sir.
kinda
We
see a
can
district view?
arrange that for you.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Mrs. Sparsa, or actually for Mr. Ochoa, I had the chance to do academic rounds with Dr. Chacon, and one of the things on the iStation reports was the reports were included in the children's folders and the students' folders. And this was one of the rounds we did, I think, was early in the month. And I mean, it was already the first week of the month, and they already had the new report. They already knew where they're at, and they already had their new goals that they were going to reach at. And I know you're very busy teaching your own classes, but that was a real eye-opener to see how they apply that knowledge immediately to help to support students.
So each student knows exactly where they're at that
Yes, sir.
With iStation, the great tool for this is that it's a tools to know. So in other words, the teachers can actually look at the data, look to see what the students need assistance with. And then the students have the ways to show. How do they show it? Through listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So the students go on a different pathway so that they can learn and develop their skills and any deficits that they have to try to bring them up level.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I just want to add, I'm not taking too much of your time. It's just that I'm really impressed with the fact that we can identify each child, and now we're targeting the needs. We can identify those that are excelling, et cetera. But ultimately, the ones that we need to find are the ones that are struggling. And I feel very confident. I don't want reports. Reports are, I would just want to make sure that every child is given the opportunity to improve. And I think this is very, 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 very useful.
Yes, thank you for saying that, Mr. Rosales, because that is true. The students get to actually look at their own data, and they get to see where they fall as far as we consider as deficits and where they need to grow. The teachers get to do the same thing. So they get to actually individualize instruction, or they can do a guided reading type of instruction, a whole group instruction, or one-on-one. It's great. It's a great tool for teachers because lessons are actually in there. And with the students actually being on iStation, it actually has increased their reading level. One thing about iStation also is there's different cycles that students can go through. So if a student is in cycles 1 through, I think it's 12, it is 1 through 12, the student's barely learning to read, and so the teacher knows that. If the student is in cycle 13 through 15, that means that the student is right on target with some intervention. They can go ahead and be ready for that STAR. So it's a great tool to see how the students are going to do on STAR. It's a great predictor. Any other questions on iStation?
I would like to say one more thing.
Yes, sir.
To follow up on Mr. Rosales' comment, is that the other thing, and Mr. Ochoa's comment, is that the other thing that was really interesting was that the teachers had already assigned students to different stations in the different classrooms I visited. And so there were some students that were getting intensive support on a daily basis, and there were other students at different levels that had different types of activities that met their needs. And also the best part I liked, it kept them interested. And so,
Yes.
again, I think that it's a good way for us to do things.
And another great thing about iStation is it's on the computer, so it's on our Chromebooks, so the students get to actually do this at home too. So thank you, Board of Trustees, for the Chromebooks, because the students get to actually do iStation on their Chromebooks as well. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Gleason.
So one of the things that we've been focusing on with our individualized, professional development is our teachers, and specifically our teacher leaders. We've been really working with them to make sure that they have all of the tools that they need to take back to their campuses to support their departments or to support their grade level. What we've been doing is having department head meetings, different cadres. The middle school is doing a curriculum assessment board that we're bringing our teachers in. And this is great because we're building our future leaders here. We're helping them to go back to their home campuses and work with their colleagues as far as literacy is concerned in the classroom. We're also working with our campus instructional coaches, our interventionists, and our diagnosticians to make sure that they're really working hard to find those reading deficits, especially when it's so critical. If we have a kid that's coming up through high school and they're still not on grade level reading, it's really critical that our teachers work with the diagnosticians in order to figure out what that problem is. Our instructional specialists are working very closely with the campuses to make sure that everything that we're doing, which includes things like Lead Forward, the curriculum that we have, other things that like leveled libraries that the ladies are going to talk to you about in a minute, are being rolled out properly at the campus. With our assistant principals and our principals, we're giving them very targeted professional development when we have them here with us, so that we're showing them this is what a good response to an essay looks like, or this is what you can ask a student when you walk in the room if you want to find out if they're comprehending what they're reading, and things along those natures. And of course, our associate superintendents are supporting us on walkthroughs as we do our instructional rounds on the campuses and make sure we have that evidence of learning in the classrooms. And then finally, our superintendent and our board of trustees, who are responsible for making sure that our teachers have everything that we need.
So now that we've transformed our leaders, how do we support the learning in the classroom? Literacy is everything. It's all around us. Literacy is in math, English, science, and social studies. But for this presentation, we're talking about mainly our reading skills here. So reading is everywhere. We transformed our leaders so that we can help now with the learning supports. So what does our learning supports look like so that we can help our whole child? We were very proactive in the summer where we gave a holiday exchange on our English language arts new TEKS that are coming out. The TEKS are called the Texas Essentials in Knowledge and Skills. Those new TEKS are the integration of reading and writing. They are now completely integrated. They are not separated at all. So in the summer, we already helped our teachers from K-8 with the new ELAR TEKS. High school will be the following year because they're 1 year behind from the state of Texas. So right now, we've been proactive in doing that. The next part that you see with our literacy is our TEKS resource system. That's our curriculum. That's our foundation. We built everything from there, from our lessons to our balanced literacy. When we think of balanced literacy, I kind of want you to think of a scale. It's our reading and writing. One can't be without the other. The new TEKS show that, the integration of reading and writing. So with our balanced literacy, through our TEKS resource system, we must keep a balance of our reading and writing. Next, we also have our leveled libraries. Now, before I get into detail about our leveled libraries, just want to make it clear that all of our students get exposed to that first teach. All of them do. Now, if we see that a student is struggling, then we need to differentiate the instruction, which is with our leveled libraries. We have leveled libraries for our general education students and different leveled libraries that are for our special needs kids, as well as for our ELL. So when we think of level libraries, what could that mean? Well, it's like keeping the field leveled for all of our students. If we need some differentiated instruction, we work with that child. So if a child is not reading at a certain grade level, we give them a high interest book that you see over here. These are called leveled libraries that Diane is showing over here. So what a teacher will do is look over to see what the reading level is that a student is at, go find that and work on the specific skill. Much like iStation worked on a skill, that's what leveled libraries do. It's the high interest books that students can use. So we have this through HMH, which is a company that we purchase these leveled libraries. We also have the level text through TCM as well. Our librarians are also very instrumental in our literacy. Not only do they help us with book fairs and book clubs, but they're out there helping our students read and write. Now, when we talk about guided structures, it goes hand in hand with our K-12 resources. For our elementary, they brought in the consultant Jan Richardson. For our middle school, we have Gayla Wiggins from Lead Forward, and from high school, it's the Jane Schaefer, all about reading and writing so that we can get everybody on board. We talked about iStation earlier. That's another resource that we're using. We have Right from the Future and Beyond. We are working in many different capacities, even with Lead Forward, so that we can make sure that all of our students are literate and that they're reading and writing by the time they leave the grade level on grade level. So with that said, we talked about transforming our leaders, giving the learning supports, but now it goes beyond the classroom walls, and we need to involve our community. So I'm going to turn it over to Diane at this time.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So a big part of any literacy plan, I suppose, part of education actually, is how do we involve our family and our community? And I want to point out the first bullet here, and I'm really proud to say that during our summer school program, which thankfully to you all also is very much supported, we had a K-2 literacy camp that was at three of our campuses around the district. And what this was it brought actually books home to the kids. And the way that the students were identified in K through second were those kids that were identified that needed that extra push. In other words, going back to iStation, any of the students that were identified as Tier 3, kind of are at risk, those that were below grade level were invited to come to the summer camp. It was a half day, and if some of you had the opportunity to actually go to some of those camps, I said they had the actual tents, they had flashlights, but the neat part about it was that the teachers, the highly skilled teachers that were hired for the summer school, were giving these kids the skills that they needed in order to promote their literacy skills. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to give them 3 weeks of intense reading, but then make reading fun. They had books that concentrated on the social emotional needs of the kids, and then those books went home with the parents. The parents were invited, they had s'mores, they had a bunch of different things that encouraged them to read those books at home. Because one of the things that they say is that typically kids have maybe 2 books at home that they read and they can be supported. So that was one thing that we worked on. And then I'm happy to say that actually at the beginning of the year, there was iStation, which is given in September or October, depending on the grade level. We had an advance of about 63% that had been Tier 3, gave them a jump start, and they were Tier 2. Some of the kids actually jumped to Tier 1, so it did work. The other piece that we encourage a lot of, and this is the administrators and the instructional coaches and teachers, what they do either on an every 9 weeks basis, they said, or they do it at least maybe once in the spring, once in the fall and once in the spring, is they have their literacy nights. And this could be showcasing the things that the kids are doing. But what you also see, and I think you all made reference to that, is some of our campuses, what they've done is they've taken some of the information that they used from the iStation report, amongst many, but from the iStation, and then they use the skills that the kids need the more help on. And then they work with the parents to show them, this is what you can do at home to help support the students. And again, like Mrs. Sparsa said, we were very fortunate that we have the one-to-one device in the majority of our grade levels, that they can take those home also in order to use them, and that's kinder through 8th. through 8th grade. We also have in high school the ability to use Ingenuity, which is in all of our high schools that they can use there. So that's promoted. And then finally, here you see the picture of Ms. Valencia, our Linda, and we're really happy to have the Read Across America, and that has been consistent kinder through 12. But we're real excited because we really try to partner up, I said, with YTA in order to be able to support. And really the idea is to develop the love of literacy. We have tried to invite each of you all, I said, to the campuses so that you can read. I know a lot of you have gone in and have gone with the Dr. Seuss and everything else and have read to the students, which has been very, very powerful, and the administrators have been really really grateful. And we'll continue to do that as we partner up with YTA. So that goes to our family and community engagement.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Before you leave that. How well attended is your literacy nights and your family nights? Are they well attended, or is it?
It depends, Ms. Woodruff. I would say, because each campus is responsible for developing their own literacy nights, and so you'll see in a lot of the communities that the parents will show up, especially, and what we really try to promote is if you can, like a lot of them do, like the students doing the actual conference themselves and doing things of that sort, those are normally well attended. But as far as the consistency throughout, I think, just based on what I've seen, I said, of course, in the elementary lens, I said they all want to know how their kids are doing and how they can help. It tends to taper off a little bit more so in the middle and high school.
Right.
However, I said, I know that the high schools really try to do some things, I said, where they invite the parents, and I speak from a parent and actually from the district. So it just depends on the area. So we really do try to promote, and we try to give various means, I think, for the community so that and the parents, so that they want to come in and they want to see what their kids are doing.
Thank you.
Okay, the other piece to our plan is, because bottom line, all that we do up here, what we want to see, the end result is how does it impact our classrooms? Because we do everything up here, but we have to have means to say, is it really, really going back to the classroom? So one of the things that you'll see here is kind of an arrow going up, and the reason that that's going up, as Ms. Gleason explained, she hits high school, and I do elementary, and so we start at the foundation. And I want to pose just a couple of things that are up here. Like balanced literacy, sometimes I said you'll hear this throughout, and it sometimes becomes just kind of a buzzword. But I want you to kind of imagine this, and if you have had the opportunity to either join us for instructional rounds or have gone into some of the classrooms, what balanced literacy looks like is this. And the professional development that's occurred leads teachers to be able to do this. You'll see a teacher that has hand-selected one of the leveled library books that are here for the demonstration, and they've actually tailored it so it's at the student's instructional level. And so you'll see the teacher doing that. Then at the other parts of the classroom, which we were very fortunate, we saw evidence of this actually today, you see other kids doing station activity. So some kids, yes, they'll be on the computer, might be on the computer, they might be, and they're doing iStation, some of them do Educational Galaxy, and then you'll see other kids doing word work. So kids are involved in other literacy stations, I said, throughout that ELAR block. And then Mrs. Barca explained too, the other part of balanced literacy is how we're connecting that writing. And I'm going to make reference to the fact on the data that you saw our fourth and seventh grade, I said that has gradually declined, I guess, over the couple of years. So we really have looked at that to see how we can build on that. And then the other piece to this is that differentiated professional development. And what that means is as we go and we make kind of informal observations in the classrooms, or as we work with our principals and assistant principals, what we're asking them to do is say, okay, how can we tailor that professional development? Because some of the teachers, I said, that are at the campuses, they've been involved in intense professional development with the coaches and so forth, so they may not need that type of professional development. And while others need more intense professional development on guided reading, for example. Some teachers need more help on how to raise the rigor on their stations. So what we encourage, and we've provided some of the tools for the administrators and for coaches and so forth, is how can you structure your professional development so that you meet the needs? Just like we're asking them to differentiate for kids, how do we differentiate for the teachers so that somebody sitting in PD, it's relevant to them? And then the other piece, and this does look different, elementary, middle, and high school, but in the elementary, one of the things that we're trying to look at is how do we increase our writing scores? And first of all, one of the common messages is this: fourth grade test writing, but writing has to occur as early as pre-K. It's got to occur, and it's a part of our standards, but it's a good practice for kids. So one of the things that we developed over the summer in the elementary department was we brought in some key teachers, some key instructional coaches that had done well in writing, and this was kinder up until 6th grade. And they developed some prescriptive writing lessons. So a teacher can go through these writing lessons, and it has a step-by-step on what they do. Embedded in there are the Spanish language arts TEKs. What do you do for a child that may be advancing, and what do you do with a child that may need the extra supports in writing? So that's available for teachers to look at. Because if you didn't necessarily writing is hard sometimes for teachers, and so what are we doing to be able to provide the support for them? And as Naomi mentioned, I said in middle school it was Gayla Wiggins that came in to do some support, and then in high school it's the Jane Schieffer writing program that they have there. And then as we move up here, the PSAT, evidence-based reading and writing, that's something that we're promoting. Our kids take the PSAT in 8th, 10th, and 11th grade. So some of the things that have been done, at least at the middle and high school, has been to make that connection for those students. And then, of course, we're always looking to see how does this all transfer to our pre-AP classes and our AP classes that are at our middle or our high schools. And speaking, again, from a parent's point of view, from a child that is in advanced placement, I know that the curriculum that they have in there really encourages them to really make that reading writing connection and really tries to push for that higher level of thinking and to make that connection with reading and writing. And then finally, very important is the college and career and military readiness. And so one thing that we're attempting to promote also is how does the literacy skills fit into the importance of being successful in college and career? But also, I said, if you're going into a trade school or if you're going into the military, one thing that you'll see, especially, and I'm going to use Bel Air as the example, is they partner up with the industry. They partner up with Walgreens. And so what they do there is they partner up, especially with the pharmacy and all of that department, and they show the kids the connections between the literacy skill and what it takes to be successful within a career. So that's a piece on our classroom literacy development. And then as we started at the beginning, as Christine mentioned, she started off, and it was actually one of our pre-K students, and how important that literacy and how we transform the lives, even starting as early as pre-K. And then I ended up, this is the valedictorian actually from Hanks, the Hanks Nights from last year. And so one of the things that we are trying to promote with our literacy plan and all the things that we talked about tonight was we're wanting to build literacy so that we have these type of these students. I said we're promoting this so that we have valedictorians, students that are successful, and whether or not they decide to take it to the college level, the university level, or if they decide to go into the military, they decide to go into a trade of some type, how important it is to be good in reading and writing. And that would conclude our literacy plan for today, unless you all have any questions.
I just want to congratulate you on the pre-K programs, especially at this district. I know that you all have stressed how important it is to start very young. They're incredible, and the work that you all do should be applauded. I think that it makes a huge difference in the success of our kids in elementary, middle, and high. So across all levels of grades, the work that's being done in this district is very impressive, but I love the pre-K. I'm in love with the pre-K programs that we have here. I can't wait to have my son in the pre-K programs here.
And we welcome him. We're really excited about our pre-K, but thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. The fourth presentation, Ms. Champagne-Shi, questions pertaining to the monthly audit and the 2015 bond audit summary?
Good evening, President Woodruff, Dr. Del Torre, all the board members and cabinet friends. Today is December 10th. 11 slides. Take care of tonight. Okay, so we have a quick summary here. I will go over the bond audit scope. So we have the Townsend Audit Services and internal audit, 2 areas. This one, it's not the latest slides. Can you give? Hector, I need the other one. Then Monica email you. Sorry, technical issue. So you have a package on the yellow one that it has the PowerPoint, and it also has the revised Townsend billing summary. I had a little bit of typo that historical data when we moved to the new file got not carried correctly, so my apology. And then it's the package, that's the audit update 7. So you got 11 page of the slides and 1 sheet, 2 pages of the Townsend building update, and in the package of the updates. Okay, so we'll go over the slides. So first, if you look at the, thank you very much, this is the correct one. So you look at this, the first chart I'm going to show you, it's what Townsend have done for us. So risk assessment is done in November 2016, completed it, and bid package 1-1, which was just part of the life cycle, but because Delphi High School gym and bleachers at that time had an issue, so it was moved up, finished in early 2017. And bid package 3 was the athletic enhancement. That one, Townsend completed the audit back in 2017. Okay, and then bid package 4 is the district-wide security entry. This one, my office did the contract compliance, and we had some recommendations was addressed by purchasing already. And this chart, second page, it's the same. I have the bid package number, the project name, construction contractor, the main one, and what contract type that is, with the revised bond budget, construction contract value, the estimate completion, and also the actual value and the dates for your reference and when the audit report was issued. Bid package 5 is the Bel Air Middle School, and this one has 2 sections. One was the demolition and the other one the construction. This one is going on, and then there was an audit report issued, interim, and the corrective action plan was addressed in spring break, and we finalized in June. Bid package 6 is Eastwood North Elementary or International School. So this one, it's done already, but the closeout paperwork, I think it's almost done. 7 is Terra del Sol. This one in July, we have an interim audit report and working on this one. 8, it's Delphi, the new combo. This one, it's the CIMA with the Beaufort Thompson. So Townsend had an interim audit report back in 2017 that we had discussed. And then bid package 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. The 15 is the one that we are wrapping up. It's of today. We're working with the VLK to get the final paperwork finalized with bands, and hopefully they will be able to send final payments pay-up request very soon. Okay? This 16, 17, 18 are the one were in phase 2, but this one is phase 1. 16, 17, 18, it's ongoing. Ysleta High School, Bel Air, and Parkland High School are ongoing. 19, job was done, but the closeout paperwork, it's for some reason the contractor is still working on it. These are bid package 129 are the one from phase 2, but we move up, we're doing it now. These are all life cycles with 7 and 8 elementary schools, each with high schools and then middle schools included in there too. I was told bid package 20 will be combined into bid package 9. Capistrano will be taking care of in bid package 9. 91 and 92 are the accounting kind of clearinghouse.
I'm sorry,
to keep track of that dollar amount. Yes.
You said bid package 20 is going to be combined with bid package 9? What?
Bid package 20, the Capistrano will be part of the bid package 9. I do not know about how the budget is going to be reallocated yet. Adrian, do you want to answer? Or maybe my information is not up to date. But the budget amount is still there. The bid package 20, the budget amount is still there, especially in the munis allotment.
Champagne, I think the question has to do with that money hasn't been determined how it was going to be spent. Originally, it was going to be a classroom wing, but since there's not a need for that, there's still, that plan is in progress. So the question is, why is that part of 20?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying bid package 20, the budget allocation is still there.
Right.
But the Capistrano also, it's in bid package 9 as part of the life cycle.
There's some life cycle work in part of the 20.
Right.
In addition to the, yes, you're correct.
Yes.
So
did I confuse you?
So
I'm
just
sorry.
make sure let me go ahead and state it.
Yeah.
All right, so Capistrano has life cycle work in
package 9.
addition to the classroom wing.
Yes.
What you are saying is the life cycle work that was intended for Capistrano has now been part of 9, and the classroom wing still hasn't been determined.
Right. Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Yes.
Sorry, did I speak too fast? Sorry about that.
No, I just wanted to make sure I clarified.
Yes.
Okay.
And bid package 91 is the technology portion of that. 92 is the kind of the clearinghouse, including the VLK's contract, including Townsend's contract, and some personnel, 3 personnel's expenditures, and some supplies expenditures there. Okay. Now, that one Townsend kind of I recapture here is the risk management reports done, construction cost audits, including these listed in here, bid package 3, the athletics, the Bel Air Middle School that we already went over these, and then the other major contribution Townsend brought was the contract and the language recommendation. There were 3 major ones they recommended. One is the business ethic, and the other one is the change order pricing. Basically, we wanted the contractor and subcontractors to provide the detail. When they do the proposal, they can provide a detailed pricing. And then the number 3 is the retention of record and write-off audits. So these 3 exhibits are included in the new contracts on the AIA document 201 after September 2016 or October 2016, after Townsend recommended and it's finalized. So it is implemented. I have include a chart of which bid package this revision is included, and it's in attachment 6. in the package that you can look at that. Next is what is the Internal Audit Office has done during this bond. We had done a closeout audit on the secure and safe entry, and we have done some prevailing wage rate audit. The difference was resolved, and the finance helped us to take care of those already. We are doing bid package 5, 8, 10, 11, 13 construction site visits. Some of those are done, some of those will be continued to do. And then prevailing wage rate audit, we still have bid package 5, 8, 10, 14 in progress. Summarize all these, the Townsend's observations and what we have done. So pretty much our project is going very well. I think so far it's only one school that it's catching up on the schedule, and some of the phase 2 we move up. So I think this one is very good progress on those. We work with Townsend on the audits. Mostly their recommendation or their findings are the change orders are lacking the details to justify the pricing, and then labor rate, prevailing wage rate, some deviations do that. So that's pretty much, yes.
So are these your office's observations or are these Townsend's observations?
I summarized these, but many of those were the Townsend recommendation, and through our office, we kind of coordinate to work with operation, to work with VLK to address them. So maybe I should have labeled that is the Townsend, mainly is Townsend's observation. Okay, so number 3, you just said a moment ago that the labor rate and prevailing wage rate deviation, that there's not been an issue. We've had some complaints, but we resolved those, correct? We have resolved them, yes. Yes, and there are a few of them, we just resolved it today. Okay, so this is not this is not a significant problem. This has been an isolated cases of it, but he still insists on documenting it in this particular manner, correct? What we try to do is we try to make sure the contractors and subcontractors do abide to our contract, because in our contract we do say they have to monitor and they have to make sure their subcontractor workers are paid. I understand the whole process, but yes. I guess the comment I want to make and is that this has not been a big issue for us, and I want to reassure the public that when we've become aware of these things, that the district has taken a very strong stance to ensure that our contractors and their subs are in compliance. And so this has not been a big issue, even though he notes that on his observations, correct? Well, here is a summary of it. It doesn't mean we ignore these questions or these problems. Here, the summary, these 5 items are just the observation they summarize here, and we address those along the way. I guess the difference between the finding or different problem not deal with is different. I'm bringing it up, these were the things get noticed. And I did mention it was addressed. I did not mention that these were the things that not addressed. I guess I just have a problem with it, that the fact that the way this is stated, that this is an ongoing problem. It is not an ongoing problem. This has been isolated cases. The district has aggressively addressed those issues and resolved them. That's my observation. I would not put it as an ongoing issue. I would not put it that way because, and I would not say, I would not be able to tell you here, say that we don't have that problem because we don't know. The prevailing wage rate issue, because unless we go to the job site, we interview everybody, every job trade, because the prevailing wage rate, sometimes it will just pop up. So I think the best way to look at this observation is these are the things during the audit, we noticed. And the important thing is, have we addressed that? And we address them, but doesn't mean that there will be no problem in the future.
Champagne, has there been a significant number of people that haven't been paid correctly? A significant number?
I would say no.
Okay, thank you.
Because when we sample it, no, we don't sample, our sample size is pretty small.
So the problem is
Yes.
that the board has entered into a covenant with their community, and they've given them assurances, and they've been absolutely transparent. Most of the people that live in our district aren't accountants, right? So a statement like that can be misleading. It can leave people with the impression that we have labor rate, prevailing wage, deviation consistently, because it's stated as a fact. The sum doesn't suggest that there have been, I believe, 12 cases, maybe 8 cases, in a $430.5 million bond with thousands of employees. That's a bold statement for Mr. Townsend to make, given just the absolute minuscule number of cases that we've had to address.
Don't you also think the same thing is kind of true of number 2? We haven't had that many change orders, and for that to be documented as an issue, I kind of agree with Dr. Delatorre that that's kind of making a statement that this has been a big problem with our bond.
Like I say, this is a summary. I do not know what I touch.
But let me interject on this. I had a problem with observations too, because I have a problem when it says almost, some, and I would actually like a more detail when you say progress timely for almost all projects. I would like to know which projects are not on time. Or when you say some change order lack detailed backup document, which ones, where, and why? Like you said, we need numbers, not just a broad statement like that, because some to you could be 5, some to others could be hundreds. So it's just those type of words that you choose that are kind of misleading. Especially for an audit, I think we should be more specific as to the range. You know, you could even put a range. But, and even in the number 5, communication gaps, that's too broad. I need to know what kind of communication gaps are you talking about? To me, when I say communication gaps, it's like, what are we talking about? So you need to be more specific in your observations when you put that down. I mean, you can make a broad statement, but then back it up with the data that you're trying to state.
So let me answer you the one about the change order, the progress, right? So if you go back to look at the slides with the 2015 bond status, where I did list it on.
Well, I know you listed it there, but list it here. So that way, I don't have to look through all that.
Okay, I'll do that.
I'm just saying that for record purposes and everything like that, I think we need to be more specific when we make these statements. That way, we don't mislead anybody.
Yeah, so the specific also is detailed in this package.
Can you rewrite this?
Sure. Yes. So in the package, it has this. I can summarize
And then
it.
also, I think that the point that Mr. Remedios was trying to make is, are these your findings, or is this Townsend?
My summary from Townsend's finding and the audits we did. So it's my summary of all the audit reports.
You summarized what he said to you.
Yes, I summarized from all the reports that has been issued by Townsend and by my office.
Okay.
Can we get this by Wednesday?
I don't think so.
I'm sorry?
Can we get a rewrite for Wednesday?
I concur with Mr. Ochoa.
I don't think that this isn't on the agenda. So it doesn't matter if we get it by Wednesday or
Well,
whatever.
it doesn't
but-
have to be on the agenda, just submit it back to us. I mean, she gave us
Right,
this document.
right, then that definitely, I
Okay,
don't
so
know, do you?
are you okay with the update 7 package? Because all the summary actually is in the package. The PowerPoint, I just brought it out from
Which is
the
which is number
try to make it easier for everybody. So if you look at the package, on the update package, there the first page is the abbreviation. The first page is abbreviation used in this report, and then for the second page, I basically go over the bond and how the process is. So, and then if you look at the attachment one is the bond budget tracking. This one is by bid package. It has the initial proposed budget, how fund is transferred from in and out of each bid package. And then it's the revised budget. This is the bid, it's in the attachment one. And then how much money has been encumbered and expensed, meaning how much money has been set aside for this one. And then by each package, what is the overall balance by dollar amount and by percentage. This is as of November 30th. Whatever was posted on Munis. I add a column there, is percentage of work. So these are the results of what we understood after communicating with the VLK about where the project status has been. Its work is completed and pending closeout process. Closed means work, back checks, and closeout process completed. So many of those you see complete, the job is done, but the closeout process is going on. And then audit status, it has the status to show you the star number 4, meaning internal audit report, it's done and what the dates are. Number 5 means the internal audit report date issued. And so all those shows you by the bid package. Attachment 2, it's a different presentation with the bid package, but show you, for example, bid package 1, within a 10.9 million proposed budget, 1.6 was for athletics. And then fire safe system, life cycle, PA, and securities, etc. So this is attachment 2. Attachment 3 is the one break it down more detail. For example, big package 1 within athletics tells you which campus was allocated and how much was actually spent. So these 3 different data to show you if you want to know which school gets what, you can go to attachment 3. If you want to know which type of project under which bid package, you can go to attachment 2. And attachment 1 gives you a very quick overview of by bid package, how much money is allocated on those. Attachment 4 shows you with the program manager and Townsend's audit, which bid package, how much it's cost so far. Attachment 5 is a quick summary that we had from the Townsend's risk assessment. Yes.
Can I stop you?
Sure.
Because I was looking through it as you were reading it, and I can't tell which projects are on time and which are not on time based on on this information. I can't tell what change orders lack detail backed up on the documentation.
Okay.
I mean, it has a lot of information, but there's no way I can digest this and come out with this.
Okay, there's a lot of data. So if you go to attachment 7, the last attachment.
I looked through all the attachments.
Yes.
It's attachment 7.
Sorry. So attachment 7 is the one have the summary of by project where the audit status is and the construction status. So in audit status, I kind of bring a very quick bullet point about in that audit. For example, in bid package 4, construction contract compliance audit, what was noticed and what was addressed. Yes.
Champagne, I was looking at attachment 7 when Mr. Ochoa spoke. I see a lot of the audit statuses that say you're conducting a prevailing wage audit, but maybe I read it so quickly. I don't see one where you actually identify an issue with a prevailing wage. Like that there was anything on any of these bid packages where you actually identified that there was an issue discussed, that there was something where there was a problem found. And so when you go back to the observations that everybody's complaining about, it strikes me as how you can put that up there when nowhere on here does it say any of these. You say you're doing them, but nowhere does it actually identify that I saw that there was actually a problem identified.
Okay, what I can do is I can re-summarize from each audit report that have been issued. So for you guys, because in each audit report, it did have those information. I can re-summarize that if you like.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, going back to the issue everybody has, you cannot put a statement like that out to the public and then say, well, I gave you this big old report that identifies why I made that statement, but yet within that actual report, nowhere in there does it say what you're claiming there. So that's a problem for me, and I think for most of the board, is you can't make a comment like that, say, well, I gave you a big report that explains it. The big report doesn't explain it. It's not in here.
Okay. I think I didn't think I need to reprint all the audit reports, but.
Whole report, but just, if you're going to identify it, it needs to be somewhere on here where I can clearly say and look at the audit status and attachment 7 and say, oh, okay, I understand at Eastwood High School, there was that claim of a wage disparity. That's not a real claim, I'm just saying as an example, I should be able to find it in the audit status attachment.
Okay, I can make,
That's all I'm asking
yes,
for.
I have that work paper in our, we do have the work paper of that tracking. I just didn't think we need to print it, but I'll bring it to you Wednesday.
I guess my last comment is that your level of detail, I wish the public could see, because it's just amazing. It's just you and your office put out a huge, immense level of detail that shows how things are working. But the problem is when I see words almost and some, those sort of things, that just kind of leaves it to interpretation when that's not real. And even I just asked VOK about the number 3, and we've only had two complaints that were validated, and so and we fixed them. Okay, so again, we're responsible to the district and to the community to say, when we take these things very seriously, we take our job seriously, and so that's the big issue, is that the vagueness of the verbiage up there. And if you want to just put, like I said, if you want to put 10 of 12 projects are done timely, 15 change orders, 2 of 15 change orders lack detailed backup, I don't know, whatever the numbers are, then that's fine. That says the truth,
Yeah, we have that tracking, so we can revise this one and give it to you Wednesday.
Thank you, Champagne.
Sure. Okay, so I will, do you want me to put a separate or just put in the PowerPoint?
It sounds like the PowerPoint is that what you're asking for, Mr. Ochoa?
I need more specifics to all those bullets that she has.
I think what they're all saying is just some backup information under each one of these statements that shows what you're talking about.
Okay.
Did I get that correct?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay,
Yes, and I'll send it to Monica so she can forward to you all.
sounds good.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's it, right?
That's it. We'll push through the agenda.
All right, thank you, Dr. Del Torre. Now we will discuss agenda items as listed in the posted notice of regular meeting of Ysleta Independent Board of Trustees for December 12, 2018, and related recommended motions with the superintendent and executive cabinet, and receive responses to questions and/or requests for additional information through the superintendent in preparation for deliberation and action on said items at the December 12, 2018 regular Board of Trustees meeting. So if there's one that you have a question, stop me or want to pull or whatever. Consent agenda, number 1, Board of Trustees workshop and board meeting, November 14th, minutes of the November 14, 2018 meeting. Number 2, monthly financial update for October 2018. Number 3.
I have a question on that.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
There's a summary of expenditures for local maintenance funds, and it names most of the companies I know, but it has individuals there. I just need to know when it's like an individual's name, what does that mean? It's just this guy or this person came and did work for us? And summary of campus expenditures for July 1. Well, that's the internal audit, never mind. Never mind.
Who's the internal audit? It's a tiring day, we know that. So you're okay then?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to number 3. Approval of award of YISD contract number 201-90096 with University of Texas at El Paso.
I'd just like to make a comment. I think this is really exciting, especially since it doesn't cost anything. But I think the chance to do this and you know, many of the programs now across, not only locally, but across the nation, because of the shortage of clinical areas, up to 50% of their clinical time can now be in a sim lab. And so that's significant, and I think this is going to be a really good opportunity for our students. I'm very excited about that.
Okay, number 4 has been pulled for a separate motion, and we'll get to that one when we go to our action agenda. Okay, so now policy action items. Policy CH, purchasing and acquisition. Okay, moving on to action items. Action item number 1, designation of filing authority in board election. Number 2, ratification of award amendments number 1 and 2 to YISD contract number 201-70383 with Avidris Architecture. And I do have a question on that one, just asking. It sounds like this work has already been done. Am I correct in that? I don't know who I'm asking.
What this allows for is, you remember we increased the scope of the project, and the architect is paid on a percentage of the construction cost.
Okay.
So that's what this will allow for.
And it won't raise the cost in any way to the final maximum?
No, ma'am,
maximum
not
price
what you
that
have
we-
already approved.
Okay. All right. Okay, number 3, approval of award of YISD cooperative requisition number 18834 for purchase of replacing the fire alarm at Hanks High School. Number 4, approval of award of cooperative requisition furniture. Number 5, engagement of legal counsel regarding construction, contract, and business matters excluding E-rate. And then we'll go back to the pooled item. Is that going to be number 6?
It'll stay number.
Sorry, it's going to be number 4 under pooled consent.
Oh, sorry. It'll still stay number 4, but it moves over into the action.
So you have another
Oh,
sheet?
so it's going to stay in the consent agenda? It's not going to the,
It's going to be brought down to the pooled consent,
oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
and it'll be labeled number 4.
Got it. Does anybody have a question on that one? I kind of skipped over it then.
Ms. Woodruff,
Yes.
I think you all have how we are adding one sentence to the end of the recommended motion, so that's the reason why
Right.
it can't stay on consent. But I
Right.
discovered something else.
Okay.
EPCC is also a signatory to this agreement. Even though we keep talking about it as a UTEP, but we're going to revise it to say both EPCC and UTEP, which is another reason we should pull it to an action item, because I don't know whether you want to abstain.
Need to abstain on the vote.
So EPCC will add that language, and you'll have that in the motion tomorrow.
Okay, and it stays on the pulled consent item agenda. Okay. Number 4. Yeah. So have I confused everybody totally now? Are we good? I think that's it. It's not a long agenda.
It was just a long workshop.
A long workshop. All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Nobody's going to move. We've got.
Are there any additional?
I think we still have a couple of policy items I'd like to discuss. No, I'm just kidding. No, I move to adjourn.
I make a motion to